Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream where we are going to go into the Golden Globes in depth. Thank you so much for joining me. Usually I do a live stream these days right after the telecast, but I had some personal stuff I was dealing with, so I'm hoping to do that for the Oscars. But thank you for joining me the very next day. So it is the first live stream of the week, so you know what that means. It means it's time to gift some memberships because you guys are always so generous yourselves. So here we go. I always gift 5 memberships at the beginning of each week. Sometimes more because you guys inspire me with your own generosity. I don't pick who the memberships go to. YouTube does based on how you interact with this channel. So if you're subscribed, if you comment a lot, if you've been a member before, all those things factor into YouTube deciding whether or not to give you one of these memberships. All right, so much to discuss. So hold on, I got my notes here. I got all the stuff that I got all ready to go. Okay. All right. So I also at the very end of the live stream, of course, as always, there will be a Q&A for your awards questions. So where do I want to start? I'll have some chapter times to begin with here. So the first thing being, does it matter? Does it matter that people won these awards? I think it does. Even though the Golden Globes has had a lot of controversy, thank you, Christopher, the Golden Globes still has a lot of cachet. It was able to trend #1 last night, even against a major sporting event. And that, because I just think people, it's been the #2 awards show for years, decades even. And I think that's a hard tradition to break. I think that this was probably one of the worst Golden Globes I've ever seen. But in the past, they've had good moments. And there were a couple of good moments here, to be sure. I wasn't sorry I tuned in, but I don't think that Hollywood put its best foot forward, or CBS, or PMC Media, who produced the show, by any means. But the thing is that the Oscar voting for nominations, they're only picking their nominations, starts today. So that really helps. That's right, Stephen. Speeches help with the narrative. They can endear you to the voters. Thank you, PC. So if you win here, it makes people feel that you're a front runner, and nobody wants to throw their vote away. So if they're thinking who might win, it starts to narrow the field. Like, before everybody would thought it was an Amy Madigan versus Ariana Grande situation, and now Teyana Taylor is a serious contender. So that's really an important element here. I think it's particularly helpful for someone like Teyana Taylor, who really hadn't been part of the conversation as to who might win beforehand. Now, let's talk a little bit about the winners and the snubs. So I will say, I'm curious to see what the ratings are. They haven't come out yet. There's really nothing this year that I think is super exciting for the general audience. So I'm curious as to how many people are going to be tuning in to watch the Oscars and even this show. I mean, these just aren't particularly popular films, with the exception, obviously, of K-pop Demon Hunters, but I think it's a little bit different. Heated Rivalry can't do all the heavy lifting, Mystic, and they're not even actually nominated. We'll talk about Heated Rivalry in just a moment. That's right. I think that's right, Fahad. They're boring. And also, I have to say, there are only a few surprises. For the most part, we already know who's going to win. And I continue to feel that the Oscars has a real problem being so late. It's almost impossible to be surprised. I mean, there are a couple. I mean, the Oscars are the Oscars. All right, so one battle after another led the way with 4 wins, which isn't surprising. That's the movie to beat this year. It's just a juggernaut, and I agree with it. I think it is the best movie of the year. Then movies that walked away with 2 wins were Hamnet, K-pop Demon Hunters, The Secret Agent, and Sinners, although Sinners has a lot of controversy surrounding it, which we shall discuss. Then also, If I Had Legs, Marty Supreme, and Sentimental Value, those all just got 1 win. Although there's no craft awards here. There's no cinematography, editing, visual effects, costume design, production design, hair and makeup. So that's going to hinder some of the wins. I will say, though, some people got nothing. Now, I'm not too surprised that Begonian got nothing, right? I mean, I don't think that's that shocking, right? But I think the fact that Wicked for Good couldn't get a single win is a real issue. You know, that's not good. Frankenstein also walked away with absolutely nothing. Don't worry about Jacob Elordi. I think Jacob Elordi's career is, watch out, Timmy. You know, he's like a taller version of Timothee Chalamet. I never thought of that before. That's really hilarious. Although I love Timothee Chalamet. I love him so much. And I love Jacob Elordi. I don't have to tell you, I don't think Frankenstein was a very good movie. And I think that in the Oscars, it'll do just fine with production design and costume design. And it's drinking Wicked's milkshake this year in that regard. And I'm not surprised that Begonia didn't win anything because, I think the nominations are enough. Just as a nice little nod to Emma Stone, Yorgos Lanthimos, and Jesse Plemons. Then with TV, man, with all due respect to Adolescence, I'm sick and tired of seeing it win awards. I mean, I feel we already celebrated it because the Emmys are in September. As I tweeted last night, the Emmys really needs to move. There's no such thing as a TV season anymore because network television is dead. We're certainly not leading the way anymore. So this idea that TV starts in September is antiquated. TV should switch to being the celebration of things that came out that year as well. It's tiring. I think audiences have moved on to other shows at this point, and it's frustrating to see Adolescence taking wins from shows that I think deserve to get more attention. Now, we all expected the Pitt in the studio, and it's nice to see that Hacks and Pluribus got some recognition. Man, these snubs, boy. These snubs are really bad. White Lotus, nothing. Now, it might have been its weakest season, but it still was the White Lotus's weakest season is still better than most television. And I thought there was some particularly good acting this season. That not one actor on the White Lotus was recognized. Thanks, Bubbles. I think is like pretty shocking. I think there was some wonderful acting that was done there. Severance also, not anything for Severance. Nothing. Severance maybe came out too early. And then also Only Murders in the Building. The new Better Call Saul. Never wins anything, pretty much. Even though everybody likes it and enjoys it. Part of me feels that maybe because TV runs for seasons, that if somebody wins, they should be disqualified from the next year, just for 1 year. But I don't know. I mean, if you're really that good, and I think, well, I really got to tell you, I don't think it's that they're that good. I think it's really a barometer of popularity within the industry. And, I mean, I'm glad these actors are that popular, but that's why I said maybe there should be silver, gold, silver, and bronze, first, second, and third place for some of the TV awards, because there's too much good television, and there's just not enough stuff that's getting recognized. And I think it's very frustrating that you have a system where Better Call Saul can run for as many years as it did and never get any recognition. I just think right there points to a problem. Oh, thank you, Loy. That's very nice of you. All right, so let's get into the show itself. Okay, then we'll talk about some winners. Okay, I have talking points here. That's what I'm referring to. Heated rivalry. Heated rivalry. What is a good way to say it? I wasn't familiar with your game. Okay? By the way, I still don't get it. Okay? Like, these two guys don't do anything for me. Okay? I don't think they're at all interesting or charismatic. But oh boy, do I see the popularity. I was really impressed. And they were trending, in fact, last night. I was like, whoo, these guys are here to stay. And it appears that Connor's story is slightly more popular than the other guy, Hudson, whatever his name is. And I can see that. I like Connor. I can see why he would maybe get a little bit more attention. I have to tell you, it makes me a little sad for Sam Reed and Anthony Starr. I love Sam Reed and Anthony Starr so much, and I feel that neither one of them has gotten the recognition that they deserve. Anthony Starr, of course, who plays Homelander on The Boys, and Sam Reed, maybe with the upcoming show Lestat. I see Interview with the Vampire growing. But I'm so happy for this show and for its fan base. But at the same time, as a huge fan of The Boys and Interview with the Vampire, I just feel bad. And Jacob Anderson as well, yeah. That these other people aren't getting their flowers either. I think it just goes to show the power of the HBO machine, and that there are some very powerful executives behind Heated Rivalry. Casey Bloys, who by the way is also LGBT, runs HBO. And Casey Bloys is the one who watched this little Canadian show called Heated Rivalry and said, I must have it for my own HBO. And I think he's doing a lot probably behind the scenes to push it. So yeah, I'm very impressed. Really did extremely well last night. And I think there's no denying that Heated Rivalry is a phenomenon. So we'll see if they can do something really with it with season 2. But it's very interesting. That's right. They just announced a new book, The Legendary Movie Critic. There more material. So yeah, Heated Rivalry, I don't know if it's going anywhere for quite some time. I think it's interesting you compare it to Heartstopper, Danny. I do feel maybe it's Heartstopper for adults. That's an interesting comparison. And those two actors, of course, have very much gone on to do great things. But I liked Heartstopper. I watched Heartstopper. At least I watched I think I watched 1.5 seasons of Heartstopper. Maybe I watched 2 full seasons. And I particularly liked, out of that duo, I liked Joe Locke quite a bit. And I was so happy that he was cast as Wiccan. So yeah, all right. So yes, Heated Rivalry. I still don't get it, but I can definitely see that it's very successful. And I much prefer Interview with the Vampire. Okay, I'm excited for this summer, baby. Okay. All right, next up. Nikki Glaser. She looks fabulous, but she's kind of there to look fabulous. I thought, by the way, all the dresses, all the hair and makeup for the women, all the women were so beautifully styled yesterday. It was like old Hollywood glamour. I just loved it. I don't think anyone looked bad last night, and that's a rarity. I thought everyone looked incredible. And several times I was like, where did you get that dress? I've usually never cared, although I tried to get a picture of best dressed very quickly to grab it. And nobody I thought the best dresses weren't spotlighted, any of the best dressed pictures. But yeah, so, some people bring up Jennifer Lawrence, who wore like a very tastefully done see-through gown. And it was beautiful, but I was surprised that she wasn't a presenter. She didn't get any screen time. You had to be on social media to see her outfit. All right, so anyway, I thought that Nikki Glaser, Teyana Taylor always looks amazing. Teyana Taylor is gorgeous and has fabulous style, really fabulous style. Who I don't know if she's dressing herself or if she has a stylist, but she's phenomenal. But she always looks great. I think everybody looked really good last night. Like everybody looked phenomenal. And that's unusual. But as I said, Nikki Glaser, her main job is to be the host of the show. And I thought that her monologue came off very much as like Ricky Gervais light. She was trying to like kind of get some jabs in, but she was definitely pulling her punches. I think she wanted to be liked by the people in the room. And that's a thin line to walk. And, that's the problem when you're a roast comedian. That's where her style of humor comes from. I was talking to somebody after the show, and it's like, do we have to only get our humor from being mean to other people? And I thought that was a great point. Be mean to the executives, which everybody can laugh at. They're paid to take it. But, and of course, the number one rule of comedy, and I think a lot of things, is never punch down. She's very self-deprecating. I agree. But I think she handled herself very well, but I don't think she was funny enough. I didn't think it really worked. I also thought her sketches were just so bad. They were so bad to the point that I was like, who said these were okay? Like, I'm like, Nikki Glaser, don't you have an agent or a manager or even a friend who can come up to you and honestly say, Nikki, I love you, but that was so bad. I would not do that sketch if I were you. And also when you couple that with how horrible she was on Saturday Night Live, a couple of months ago. I don't really know if she can move beyond being a roast comedian, somebody who does roasts for Comedy Central. I don't think I'd invite her back. I just don't think she did enough with the second opportunity. I think that she did a nice job the first time, and that's why she was immediately invited back. But I think after this, maybe she focused a little bit too much on looking great, because she did look great. She looked great every single dress, every single poster. But I like North and Lad's like, just wait a minute. Hudson is way hotter than everybody else from Heated Rivalry. I love your guys. I gotta say, I do love a party, and I love that you guys love Heated Rivalry so much. But yeah, I'm glad you liked her jokes, Steven, but I think she ceased being a reason to tune in going forward. But thankfully, some other presenters I thought did a wonderful job. I thought the Wanda Sykes made a good audition to perhaps host next year. Jonathan Groff, though, Cam Kerr, Jonathan Groff is a great choice. And he can sing and dance, and he's funny. I love Jonathan Groff. He spits a lot, but he's great. I would love to have Jonathan Groff do it. Maybe co-hosts again, but Wanda Sykes was really funny. She was hilarious. I thought her joke, her first joke about Kevin Hart was great. She was so funny when she talked about Kevin Hart, saying, "You're the richest guy in this category, yet I know you want it the most. You're classic American, Kevin." And I thought that was really funny. And then also, I thought that she was really funny. She said, if Ricky Gervais isn't here and he wins, I'm going to accept for him. And she said that she was going to thank God because Ricky Gervais is an atheist. And then also speak out for trans rights. Wanda Sykes is a member of the LGBT community. And sure enough, Ricky Gervais won. And he wasn't there, which I kind of wondered was because he used to host. And maybe he feels it would be, get over it. Get in the room, have a fun back and forth with Nikki Glaser, pass the baton gracefully. But yeah. Marcelo Hernandez, Isaac, I watched his comedy special on Netflix, and it was one of the worst things I ever saw. So it kind of turned me off of him for the moment. I love him on Saturday Night Live, but his hosting special was truly awful. All right. His comedy special. I thought Judd Apatow went on forever, but he actually made it worth it. I thought he was very funny. I thought he had great jokes. I thought he had great insight. I thought his stories were funny. I really liked him a lot. I thought he did a great job. And he was very funny presenting Best Director. I thought that he was really good. And he really pointed out category fraud, which I think everybody in the room appreciated. And then I also enjoyed Smartlist's a little bit, because I think Smartlist is, that's my favorite podcast. Although to be fair, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I liked Smartlist's filmed show. They had a limited series on HBO, which I thought was very entertaining. And so they had a funny little bit, and everybody was talking about how Amy Poehler beat her ex-husband, Will Arnett, in the podcast category. But I think they're on good terms, come on, it's Will Arnett. You know what you're getting when you sign up for that. All right, then let's get into the style of the show. Woo! This was awful. This was just so bad. It was like torture having these commentators. Now, why were they there? I think for a couple of reasons. Now, first off, the Golden Globes are now owned by Penske Media. In full disclosure, I used to have a distribution agreement with them for a few years. So I've worked out of their offices for a little bit. Still independently. I was still totally independent. But I know this company somewhat. And they've gone on. When I was there, they owned Deadline, and then they had purchased Variety. And then they also went on to purchase The Hollywood Reporter. I don't think it's cool that one company owns all the trades. I think it makes them repetitive. They all have one voice. And so I think that's weird. But that's who now runs the Globes. Even though it's the Hollywood Foreign Press Association that does the voting, it's now taken over by the trades. And Mark Malkin, the gentleman on the right with the glasses, who I have those glasses, by the way. So at least he's got good style. He is the infamous red carpet reporter who goes on all the red carpets and asks really, really bad questions of people that he's talking to. And maybe they get a lot of clicks. So maybe that's why Variety feels that he's of value. They might be like, although I have to tell you, based on some interactions I've had over the years, I think people in Hollywood actually aren't that online very much, which is bizarre because there's so much of what's online affects them. But yeah, the commentary was effective, Second Shadow. That's funny. But yeah, he asks really bizarre questions. And also, I find one of the oddest things about Mark Malkin is that, he is also LGBTQ, and yet he seems to be particularly difficult to LGBTQ talent. Like, he asks them deeply personal questions and seems to try to stereotype them and only let them be LGBTQ. And he doesn't seem to want them to grow beyond that, which I think is really important for representation. Nobody wants to just be the stereotype. You want to be a fully fledged and nuanced talent. I mean, I'll never forgive him for going on the Agatha All Along red carpet or purple carpet and, saying this is an LGBTQ show. And I mean, it's funny, you brought that up too, Ben. And, I was really happy that Joe Locke corrected him and said, it's a show with LGBTQ characters, but we're dealing with a lot of important things. And so it's a show about a grander perspective and how LGBTQ characters happen to be dealing with that. And yeah, Aubrey Plaza, I think, corrected him. I mean, I think it's weird to me. It's just bizarre. So he already doesn't have a lot of fans, but I was thinking, could anyone pull off this, being a commentator during the show? I don't think so. I don't think that you could. I think that, I just think it's not what people want to hear. And that brings me to my next big point. So I think they were thinking these guys were like sports commentators. When you watch a football game or any sporting event and there are commentators who talk over the sports, everybody tunes them out for the most part, by the way, but it's just something that people have been used to at this point. Nobody wants that in entertainment coverage. People like it after the show, but they don't want it during the show, particularly not to the level that these guys were doing it. I mean, people are there. I mean, there's no talking in football, right? Just like there's no crying in baseball, there's no talking in sports. You're watching a game and it's just action. So I think I can understand the need to fill the space. But when you're watching an awards show, there's other talking, and you're watching people who are paid to talk, the actors and the directors and the writers. And that's right, it distracts from the main focus, Hearts. So it was just really poor. And so I felt that was something that was a problem with the show overall. I felt that the Golden Globes felt like this year they were produced by people who don't understand the type of people who want to watch the Golden Globes. Like, I can understand wanting to try and expand who's interested in watching the Golden Globes, but you can't lose your base. I would say it's similar to what Disney has been doing to Marvel and Star Wars, where in an effort to expand who's interested in Marvel and Star Wars, they lose the base. Like, I can understand being like, well, people like sports. And by the way, bringing Taylor Swift into sports, right, has brought a lot of people who usually wouldn't watch sports into sports. So I just thought of this. Maybe that's the answer, right? Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you do a reverse Taylor Swift. Maybe you bring a Travis Kelce type into the world of arts and entertainment, and that's how you get people interested in it. Maybe that's a good way to start to cross to the other side, right? Maybe nominating shows like Landman, which SAG did. A couple more conservative shows, getting them in here, making it feel like it's not just celebrating one type of content. I think that would be more effective than whatever this was. All right, so, by the way, the club music that was playing over the show instead of music from movies and TV really bothered me. I'm like, part of me was like, oh, I like this song, but I didn't want to hear it during the Golden Globes. Nobody wants like, here come to get your Golden Globe. You're like, isn't this supposed to be a moment of Hollywood glamour? It's weird. It was really bizarre. So this was weird. Instead of playing clips, they did the old seating chart. Okay? And by the way, I chose this one because Matthew Rhys had a horrible seat. They were like, here's Matthew Rhys. And so you would watch the show and you'd be like, oh, your seat's good. Oh, your seat's awful. Oh, you're kind of off to the side. But that's not what I want to be thinking about when I'm watching the Golden Globes. I talked to several people who were like, it was hard to follow what they were celebrating because They didn't, especially for somebody who's not super into movies and TV, you'd have no idea what shows and movies they were celebrating, particularly because they also did away with lower thirds. So if you didn't know that Noah Wyle was in the pit and you missed the screen while he went up to the stage, you're like, who is this guy? What show is he on? What did he win for? What category is this? It was just very bizarre. Okay, so that was weird. Then, what the heck was this? So they are doing gambling. They're promoting you to gamble on who's going to win. I think one thing was that this pointed out that it was so obvious who was going to win. Like, this is, who do you think will win best TV series, musical or comedy? And 96%, 94% were like, the studio. And it was also funny that during the Golden Globes here in New York City, it was airing on, I was watching it on network television, actually. And so there were ads for the CBS News at 11 o'clock. And the CBS News was doing a story on frivolous betting. And I was like, I hope you loop in the Golden Globes, which did the same thing. And then also, I made myself snoot. It's so stupid. There was also an ad for frivolous betting, that they wanted you to do it. And it was this ad where they were like in the Star Wars cantina, but a knockoff AI version of it, okay? And then they were like, I just made a lot of money off of this celebrity gender reveal. I'm like, are people really gambling on like if this celebrity's having a boy or a girl? Like, you got to be careful. I mean, you might make a little money here and there, but I don't know. And also gambling is very addictive. You know, they don't talk about it, but you know, if you go and you watch, go watch John Oliver Last Week Tonight. He did an episode a couple of months ago on online gambling. And it was really fascinating. It was for sports gambling. And it really showed what a detriment it's been to the sports industry. And so that scares me a little bit as well. If you watch that and you see what it's done to sports, they just had a scandal where a bunch of people in sports got arrested. For being, for fixing things for gambling. So when I see it moving into the entertainment space, it makes, not only do I think it's tacky, but it makes me a little nervous. I'm like, I don't like that necessarily, right? Like if it got big enough, would someone try to sway the voting or to find out who the winners were so they could, be really careful. Those poor accountants who tabulate the votes, they're going to get an offer they can't refuse. And that could be pretty scary. So here was the biggest nutty, ridiculous thing of the night. The UFC advertisement. This was so bad. I swore in my tweet I had to scratch it out for this live stream. This was absolutely shocking. I thought they were doing a comedy bit. So when it started, they said, these next presenters are so famous, they need bodyguards. And I was like, this should be funny. And instead, it was horrifying. As these two poor UFC fighters came out with the lights going like, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, yeah, UFC on Paramount Plus. And they were also doing ads during the whole show being like, the UFC fights are cinematic. And I'm like, I'm seeing them and they're not, okay? Hollywood's made a lot of movies about UFC fighting, but I mean, come on, guys, this is a cage match. And it was just so beneath the Oscar. Sorry to you and UFC fans, but I mean, you know what you're watching, right? I mean, it doesn't, the Golden Globes. It doesn't fit. It's not a match. And then I was like, oh my God, is this going to be on the White House lawn? Because, they're producing, Paramount itself is producing a UFC match for Trump's birthday on the White House lawn. I don't know if they knew about it, but Saturday Night Live had made a joke about that. And now it's true. And if this is how they're presenting it, it was just so poorly done. And it was such an inability to read the room. It's like when you watch the Grammys and they have all these people who are on CBS too, by the way. CBS, when they host the Grammys, they're like, and now the star of this sitcom will present Best Album. And you're like, what? Shouldn't it be someone in the music industry? And they're like, no, we have a show to promote. And you're like, I don't think this is the place to do it, man. So that was really bad. And it also made me nervous that in the future they might have a category because they're saying that UFC fighting is entertainment. If we have best podcast and best stand-up comedy performance, will there be a best UFC fighter in the near future on the Golden Globes? Oh my God, just have your own freaking awards show, man. And I bet you it gets more viewers than the Golden Globes, by the way. And what wonderful thing, like they just stuck best score into the commercial break. What actual category is going to get stuck during the commercial break so that you can present best UFC fighter on the air? Okay. All right. So let's get on to the actual winners and stuff. So that was my thoughts on the show. I had a lot of notes. All right. All right, here we go. And again, I'm seeing your comments as we go, and we're going to do a Q&A at the end. Okay, so next group of photos. So I did like that the night started off with a surprise. You know, these award shows can get really boring. So when Teyana Taylor, and she looks great, by the way. I mean, she's just really beautiful. I mean, she doesn't I don't think she has a bad angle. So she looked like a movie star when she won. I mean, again, as I've said before, I noticed her in Coming to America 2, and I was like, who's this? She's gorgeous. And she's actually, I think, a very good actress. I think if you've only seen One Battle After Another one time, her character is a very, you know, for reasons that you come to understand, is a very, she's rubs a lot of people the wrong way, because she's very angry herself and she has a very hard time. But I think when the second time I watched it, I was amazed at the nuance of her performance and the things that she was able to convey with just a glance. You know, when she looks at Leonardo DiCaprio holding that baby, you can just see it all on her face. And that's incredible. I was really impressed with her acting the second time I saw the movie. I think she really deserves it. And by the way, One Battle After Another is a movie that improves dramatically. It's great the first time, but it gets better and better the more you watch it, because it just has so many layers. Now, this does suck for Ariana Grande and Amy Madigan. In fact, I would say that Ariana Grande's chances are over. And that sucks because comedy is hard. It's similar to what a wonderful job Margot Robbie did with Barbie, okay? It's very hard to portray this type of an individual, and there are a lot of similarities to Barbie and Glinda, and to make them likable. You know, like, I think there are very few actresses who can pull it off. So, you know, Barbie has a whole monologue about how women are usually disliked and how hard it is for women to be likable. And I think both roles speak to overcoming those obstacles. So I think that and by the way, I think that Ariana did a wonderful job, and she was comedic, she was dramatic. I think she did a lot to carry, especially the first Wicked movie. And even though the second one wasn't quite as good, I think it completed her journey. And I think she deserves an award for the set for the two movies. And I'm kind of frustrated and upset. I think it's as disgraceful as what's happening to Sinners and what happened to Barbie, that her performance is kind of being dismissed. But don't worry, don't cry too hard for Ariana Grande. She's extremely successful. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence was running all over the Golden Globes begging her to be in Miss Piggy. And I don't blame Jennifer Lawrence. I think Ariana Grande being in the Miss Piggy movie would help it substantially. So yeah. As for Amy Madigan, don't count out Amy Madigan just yet. Amy Madigan is very much a career win. And so SAG will be a big decider. Whoever wins SAG will probably go on to win the Oscar, because actors are the biggest voting bloc in the Academy. I think this will really, I hope it'll help Teyana Taylor's career. I'm sorry to say that there are a couple of Black actresses who have won Oscars and unfortunately not gone on to have great careers, which is noticeable, Hollywood, noticeable. But I think that Teyana Taylor is, she's very smart, she's very shrewd, she's got her business hat on. I'm not too worried about Teyana Taylor. I think she'll do very well. Danielle says all of them. Yeah, almost all of them. I think it's true. I think even Lupita Nyong'o, that's true. But even actresses who are nominated, and I think it's really unfortunate. But Teyana Taylor is very aggressive. You know, I mean, you saw the way she was grabbing Paul Thomas Anderson at the Critics' Choice Awards. She was throwing him around all over the place. You know? She's a smart lady. I think she has a really good chance. Divine Joy Randolph works more than other actresses do. And, you know, Taraji's also very smart. You know, Taraji works more than other actresses because she also, but I'd love to see Teyana Taylor step, you know, to build on what these other women have accomplished. But we'll see. I thought her speech was very nice. I thought she did a good speech. You know, that's funny you bring up Angela Bassett, Jaden Crawford. I see similarities between the two of them, including their cheekbones. Two very beautiful women. And Angela Bassett works quite a bit. But a lot of times in TV these days, where a lot of older actresses actually go. So it would be great to see Teyana Taylor do more in film. All right, but I was very happy for her. Okay, and I love that she was authentic to who she was with the party in the back with her dress. You know, good for her. She knows she's not letting Hollywood dictate her style. I think she was great. All right, then next, Stellan Skarsgard. Not at all surprised Stellan Skarsgard won. I think he's going to win the Oscar. I think this is a career award. And I think, by the way, deserved. Stellan Skarsgard has not only been working in the industry for decades, but he has gifted it a number of great sons who are all very talented Nepo babies. No one can deny, particularly with Alexander Skarsgård and Bill Skarsgård, that they're fantastic. And and also it's very sad what's happening to him. Wouldn't it have been nice to be able to honor Bruce Willis while we still could? You know, Bruce Willis is still alive, but he's dealing with really difficult things right now. He's, you know, and Stellan Skarsgård is having similar issues. And so I think it's just really wonderful to be able to honor him. And I think that he's going to win the Oscar. I mean, I would say almost for sure. Don't worry about Jacob Elordi. As I said, his career's going great. It's only going up from here. You know, the nominations are really important. He's on the board. Timothee Chalamet is only finally winning now. Jacob Elordi will get there. Stellan Skarsgård won for A Sentimental Value, a movie. You know, he's supporting. That's the thing. Who knows? Because there's no frickin' lower third. Usually when I take these photos of the screen, I get the lower third in there. But there weren't any lower thirds. So it was ridiculous. Okay. Which is what I tweeted when Noah Wyle won. I was like, I mean, I liked that picture in the back. I thought that was a nice... I got a couple of these. I think this makes... I agree. This makes for a very nice shot. But you should still also have the lower third. Hey, Cat Jack, thank you very much. But anyway, Noah Wyle, he's also a producer on The Pitt. It's interesting. Both he and Seth Rogen won for their respective shows, and their shows won, and they're both producers on their shows. I love that he and George Clooney have reconnected and are having a love fest during this year's award season. And I wouldn't be surprised if in The Pitt season 3, they make an excuse for their not having any movie stars on the show rule, which I respect, but I would love to see George Clooney have a cameo on The Pitt season 3. By the way, as much as I hated Mark Malkin's voiceover, when he said that they were thinking of doing Halloween maybe for the next season of The Pitt, I did appreciate that. Like if Mark Malkin had only come in occasionally with those little tidbits, I'll tell you one thing, with all due respect to Mark Malkin, who I still have a problem with the way he handles himself on red carpets. If I were to give him a productive note, him and his colleague, I would have said, I would come to you guys I'd put you on camera and you guys share a couple of interesting tidbits now and then, you know, like maybe once an hour. 3 hours, you guys show up maybe 3 to 6 times, maybe 3 to 5 times. You come on here, you tell me some interesting factoids to get me excited. That would have been great because I did like the Halloween information. I was like, ooh, that could be good. Okay. I also felt that the show had a pacing issue, and that would have helped as well. It was just a relentless slog of giving out awards. It really did feel like a company awards show, right? Like a company dinner. Like you were like, why aren't there more comedy sketches? Why doesn't somebody sing something? Why don't we have a little bit of a bit? Why don't we have some color commentary? You know, I think that would have helped a lot. Again, particularly for people who aren't as into this stuff as we are, who are like, what show is this for? I don't remember this show, you know, like, so it's tough. Boy, I gotta tell you, Jean Smart has some aggressive fans. Like, I was like, Jean Smart has won enough. And you wouldn't believe how many people were like, how dare you? And I was like, oh, that's good. I'm glad people like Jean Smart so much. I do too. The woman's a national treasure. But she's won too many times. She won last year at the Golden Globes. She wins every freaking time. Thank God we successfully defeated the bear. But but it's just too much. And particularly because when is Selena Gomez going to win? That's right, Mascar. When is Selena Gomez going to win? And that's right, Wesley. Hannah Einbinder didn't win, and I think she's just as much responsible for the show, although she did win the Emmy, so I was happy about that. But yeah, I mean, that's why I'm like, come on. Maybe once you win 2 to 3 times, I think maybe the second time triggers the you're not eligible next year rule. Because it's ridiculous. Oh, by the way, it was confusing that below, when people accepted, they were like, this person's been nominated X number of times and has this number of wins. And it's like, well, wait a minute, dude. Like, you're counting all the nominations they've ever gotten over the span of their career, not just tonight. And that's confusing. Look at you guys being mean to Selena Gomez. My God, I'll defend Selena Gomez. You know, not every actor has tremendous range. But some actors are very good at doing a specific thing. In fact, that's what makes a star versus a character actor. Selena Gomez is extremely good at being Selena Gomez. And I think the balance that she brings to Only Murders in the Building is really incredible. And the fact that she's able to go toe-to-toe with Steve Martin and Martin Short is really impressive. And I think she deserves to be recognized for that. Okay. I think she's a big part of why that show works. Although, boy, she was dragging Benny Blanco around that awards show, and everybody was like, still, we don't get it. We don't understand what's happening here, Selena, but as long as you're happy. Okay. It's like, is that yours? Okay. All right. Okay. I'm trying to be respectful. Okay. But it's really hard. All right. Next group, next batch. Oh no, I was still on that one. Was I? Yeah. Darn it. I closed my notes, but at least I remember what I wanted to say. Okay. I got distracted by just the thought of Benny Blanco's face. Okay. So, Owen Cooper, growing like a weed. My goodness, is he big? You know, like he's like almost an adult already. I was surprised they're working on a season 2 and they're going to follow him in prison. Is he still having a problem? I thought we fixed this poor kid. But he's very talented, and I liked his speech. I liked that his speech was like, it was tough being the only boy in acting class, but it sure turned out. You know, don't let that kind of misogyny affect your life. You know, he pushed past it, and it's a great speech because it speaks to what the show is about. You know, he didn't let peer pressure keep him from doing something he was interested. Sure, it might have made him a little nervous and hesitant, but he pushed on, and look how he's been rewarded for it. So I thought that was really beautiful. But I do think that it sucks that all of the supporting actors were in a single category for limited series, for drama, and for comedy. And to see the White Lotus actors like Walton Goggins and Jason Isaacs and Tremel Tillman. I gotta tell you, it hurt for Tremel Tillman not to win this. Especially because, again, Adolescence has already gotten its flowers. So I felt really bad about Tremel Tillman. I was like, oh, he's right there. No. But, you know, this was nice. It was good. Okay. Then Seth Rogen, he won. I thought it was interesting. A lot of people said, you know, they did an episode of The Studio where they were at the Golden Globes, and they actually filmed it at the Beverly Hilton, where the Golden Globes is filmed. And it was very accurate, and it was very entertaining. And they had a running gag on that episode where everybody thanked. It was an interesting episode, by the way, about studio executives not really getting any recognition. And I thought it was great. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was really good. But there was a running gag that everybody started thanking a character called Sal Saperstein, who is played by Ike Barinholtz. And some people said that Seth Rogen should have thanked him. Well, I think you don't ever want to run your own joke into the ground, right? So I think that makes sense. And also, this was his moment, and I don't really know if he wanted to call attention to another actor. So I'm really a big Seth Rogen fan. I think he's a great actor. I think he's a great writer. I think he's a great director. I think he's a great producer. He did do it. When did he do it? Did he do it during maybe he did it during the thing with the press afterwards, but I don't think he did it on stage because I think it would have been everywhere on Twitter if he had. But yeah, it's really a great show. I love The Studio. We'll talk more about it when it wins Best Comedy in a minute. Then Amy Poehler won for Best Podcast. I don't really know if this belongs in this in the Golden Globes. I mean, I think podcasts should have their own awards. I think, it's just a total, podcasts have become a lot about celebrities. Amy Poehler herself has joked about it. It's about celebrities getting an easy paycheck. Podcasting to some degree has become watching celebrities hang out. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that's one of the reasons that the Golden Globes, which has become so celebrity obsessed, decided to create this category. And I think that Amy Poehler winning it helps the medicine go down because everybody loves Amy Poehler. So I think if another podcast had won, people would have been like, does this really belong here? But because Amy Poehler went up on stage, I think people felt a little bit better about it. But boy, did it annoy me to no end that podcasts got clips, whereas movies and shows didn't. I was like, what? What the what? It really upset me. Then Golden at the Golden Globes won Best Song. And I think this was really great because it set a precedent and makes it okay, I think, for other awards shows to vote for a movie and a song that wasn't really in theaters. Like, technically, wasn't really in theaters. But I think that K-Pop Demon Hunters is so good and so successful that there's just nothing that can be done. And I voted for it as a Critics' Choice member, and I support its wins just because I like it so much. And we'll talk about it more in a moment when it wins Best Animated Feature. Then, this was a tough one. This was Best Screenplay. And everybody thought this was Sinners. By the way, this blue background is horrible. It looks so bad in all the photos. But people thought that Sinners, and by the way, people thought Sinners should have got Best, no way, K-Pop, Golden, it's one of the most famous and successful songs of all time. But this was the one that Ryan Coogler was supposed to get. And the Oscars might still do this. The Oscars are more about being democratic, about splitting up the wins to talent in films. I guess the Golden Globes doesn't agree. But it was weird. Also, by the way, I think that Sinners probably does have a little bit of a better script than One Battle After Another. I don't think Paul Thomas Anderson needs 2 Oscars, or actually 3 Oscars, because Best Picture. He doesn't need 3 awards for One Battle After Another, It's been recognized. So I think that, Ryan Coogler deserves to have an award, a Golden Globe and an Oscar, and we'll talk about cinematic achievement in a moment, box office achievement. But I think that this would have been a more respectful thing for Ryan Coogler to get. But it went to Paul Thomas Anderson. All right. Now we're going on to the next group of picks. Rose Byrne. This was a great win, just because I think Rose Byrne is so talented, a very gifted comedian. And I don't think it's interesting. She is very much like this hot actress, but she's a character actor. She's a working actor. She belongs in the same category as Allison Janney and J.K. Simmons. Bobby Cannavale, her husband, didn't even think she was going to win. And there's a funny behind-the-scenes video of him FaceTiming with her being like, nobody thought you were going to win. I think he was very guilty that he wasn't there. I think he was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't show up. And you actually won. But that's them. And by the way, I love Bobby Cannavale. I think they're very similar in terms of what the quality that they bring to projects. But she's great. I think that she deserves to win. I'm really happy to see her recognized. And to me, this feels a lot like Sebastian Stan when he won at the Golden Globes last year. He didn't go on to win anything else, really, and I don't think Rose Byrne will either. But I think this really gives her kind of some respect in the industry that she hasn't had up until now. So I was very happy about it. I think she's just great. All right. Timmy C. Is the Oscar lockdown? Not necessarily. Wagner Moura is a real threat. He won Best Actor Drama, and we'll talk about him later. And I'm going through the way the show progressed, just so you can kind of get my emotions as I was watching it. I should have explained that at the top. I apologize. But yeah, so is he going to win? I think he has a very good chance. I think that this is a really, really big, this category is very competitive. Like, we have a real battle here. I think it was interesting how much he changed the tone of his speech, night and day from last year. Maybe his speech was the way it was last year because he was filming Marty Supreme, and he was just in that mindset, where he was like, yeah, I mean, because like his speech from last year at the SAG Awards was very Marty Supreme. But like, I think clearly other people besides myself are like, think you might have crossed the line there a little bit, buddy. And I think he's actually reeled it back a little bit too much because it's too transparent. He's like, everybody's great. And you're like, come on, Timmy, you don't have to make it clear that you got yelled at. But I love Timothee Chalamet, and I think he's an incredible actor. I think he'll get an Oscar someday, and I think he'll probably get it this year, to be honest with you. Marty Supreme is just an incredible performance. And he's a producer on that as well as Noah Wyle and Seth Rogen, which just goes to show you that, you got to make this stuff happen for yourself. I saw some tweeting about how he has no more style, which I think is funny because someone just said he was very attractive. I like Timmy C. I definitely think he has movie star looks, but I would agree that his styling, I'm not quite sure what's going on. I think he's mid-transition in terms of styling. I think he had amazing styling for the last few years. Everybody loved his hair. I think he doesn't maybe quite know what to do with his hair now that he shaved it all off for Dune. It's like Carrie Russell. She kind of recovered. She never totally recovered. And that's right. He's also getting older, I mean, he had a very specific look before, everybody, I don't really think I can say it, but everybody kind of knows the look that he had. And he wore it well, to be honest with you. And now he's trying to, I think he's trying to go, it's fine. Like Madonna, change up your style. I think it's a good idea. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I think it's a good idea to, you don't want to always be the same. I applaud him having different looks. But I think the one he currently has isn't totally working for him. I think he's a little bit like, it's interesting. He reminded me I actually saw Marty Supreme again this past weekend. And I was like, he's like Michael J. Fox in terms of just electric and just such personality and such charm and talent. But Michael J. Fox had a really hard time growing into his look and never really totally did. And I wonder what's going to happen to Timothee Chalamet. Like this is 30 for him. Like what does adult Timothee Chalamet look like? Right? Like it's weird. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with that. Now, if anyone can help him, it's the Kardashians. He's of course with Kylie Jenner. And I think it was interesting. I think the Kardashians are helping him a little bit. I think the Kardashians are very good at navigating social media and pop culture and advertising. And I think that the Kardashians are helping him. But at the same time, I see a lot of people talking about the Kardashian curse, that no man leaves the Kardashian clan unscathed. And I worry for Timmy for just that reason. I worry. I'm like, did you think this through, Timmy? None of the guys seem to stick around that long. And then I don't know how well they do afterwards. Like Travis Scott. Like, where's Travis Scott, man? Okay, he was everywhere. Do the Kardashians giveth and the Kardashians taketh away? Then finally, I'm glad he and Kylie Jenner are so happy. And I think they look like a really cute couple. Did Bad Bunny date a Kardashian? He is fine. That's funny. Bad Bunny and Timothee Chalamet have a lot of similarities, although I think Bad Bunny seems more like an adult. But anyway, he dated Kendall. That's interesting. But anyway, Kylie Jenner seems like a really nice person to me. I mean, who knows very much about her? She's like Leonardo DiCaprio. We don't know anything, although I don't watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Thank you very much, But yeah, so anyway, what I wanted to say about this is that it's tough to date someone like that for an artiste. And I think he's handling it well so far. But speaking of Mark Malkin, I really didn't appreciate when Timothee Chalamet was going up to accept his award, Mark Malkin said, do you think he'll thank Kylie Jenner again, like he did at Critics' Choice? Oh, we'll find out. I really hated that. And I don't think Timothee Chalamet liked it either. I don't think he heard that specifically, but you might have noted that he did not thank Kylie Jenner. It's very, he said something, he threw it away kind of at the end with like some group thanks. Like he definitely name-checked her, his partner, but he didn't give it a beat. Because, I think it's very important for all couples, particularly for people who are both working in the same industry, to have their own individuality. You don't want to be a celebrity couple. You don't want to have a situation where every time somebody talks about you, they talk about the other person. It's really bad. He said partner last time too, but last time at the Critics' Choice Award, he gave her a full beat and a nod. He was like, he really made it like a moment to thank her. And here he was like, oh, and I'd like to thank X, Y, my partner, and Z. And so I think that's a better way to maybe handle it. You know, I think you got to be really careful about stuff like that. Like I think I've mentioned this before. I used to know these two guys in film school, and they were really good friends, and they were everywhere together. And it got to the point where when you saw one of them, you would ask where the other one was. And that really annoyed them, in fact, to the point that it ended their friendship, which I felt really bad about, you know? Like, I was like, what a shame that they don't think they can be friends anymore because they just want to be their own person. And so I'm glad he's handling it. But I was very upset about Mark Malkin for bringing that up. I was like, we're here for Timothy, you know? And by the way, I want to be clear. I think that Kylie Jenner has been very good about that. I think Kylie Jenner is very much, she doesn't make it about her. I think for every awards show and every red carpet she's gone to for Timothee Chalamet, she has supported him and been there to support him and be there for him and knows that the event is for him. And I think that's really beautiful. I think that's a healthy, wonderful couple because she has her own chances to shine. And I'm sure if he ever goes to any of her events, he will do the same. Okay. So again, Adolescence. Ah, man. Although again, as I said, I'm surprised they're working on a second season. So Adolescence won Best Actor in a limited series. Oh no, he won, yeah, in a limited series. I'm just so over it. Again, Adolescence is a great show, but it's like when Baby Reindeer was winning everything. You're like, we get it, it's incredible, but there's other shows that aren't getting any recognition. There's also this show with Michelle Williams, Dying For. I don't want to say what it actually is. I'm not sure about what I can say on here. But I have to tell you that I agree with this. I mean, I feel bad for Sarah Snook because she did a wonderful job and all her fault. But this is a pretty incredible miniseries. It's on Hulu. It's very adult, by the way. It's a very adult show, as you would expect based on the title. But it's incredible. It's based on a true story. I think it has you can learn some really important lessons from the horrible things that happened to this poor woman. Basically, one of the things is that she got cancer because of the negligence of a doctor, which is really sad. And I think happens to a lot of women. A doctor was very dismissive of her, and it cost her life. In fact, the show was so well done and was so sad that I couldn't watch the end. I just couldn't do it. And it's a true story. It really happened to somebody. And I think that Michelle Williams did an incredible job on it. And I think people should check it out. It's called Dying For SEX. And it's on Hulu. And it's really a beautiful show. And it's very adult. It's graphic as you would expect. But in a tasteful way. All right. Then, one of the most crazy evenings of the night. Now, there are two things going on here. The first is that, as I predicted, when Sinners came out, I had a big concern it was going to get Barbied. Because I saw the same thing happening to it. And that's after tremendous initial success, I saw a campaign slowly start to emerge to gaslight people on the quality of the product. It happened to Wicked as well. And you see this a lot on social media, particularly from certain groups that insist that these things are not good. Oh, Barbie wasn't actually that good. Oh, Wicked, Sinners. And it's really infuriating. You know, and I intentionally compared it to Barbie, and I saw some people being like, oh, why would you compare it to Barbie? And I'm like, oh, I see. You just added yourself as not respecting Barbie. Because these movies all, you know, it's like what they said in Star Wars. When you divide us, you defeat us. You know, all of us need to come together and support each other's films because this is a really big problem. I think Ryan Coogler knows what this awards means. I think he knows it's a participation trophy because you might recall that when they won Best Cinematic Box Office and Cinematic Achievement, they didn't really immediately get up from their table. I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but they didn't exactly race to get up on the stage. And so that made it hurt even more. At this point, I think people know what the award means after Barbie and after Wicked. So that was really frustrating. So yeah, and now it did win Best Score off camera. And this brings me, look at Srayan. Srayan's like, it's true, Barbie sucked. I mean, you just don't get it, which is unfortunate. Oh, I wrote something here. What I want to say to this is that even if certain storytelling doesn't speak to you, it doesn't mean it doesn't speak to a lot of other people and therefore has real value. As people like to say about their own favorite stuff, not everything is made for everyone. And just because these movies weren't made for you doesn't mean you can't appreciate them. And in fact, I would like to point out, hold on a minute. I'm so upset. I would like to point out that people who like Wicked, Sinners, and Barbie are able to appreciate the other content. But yet it's not a two-way street where we aren't given the benefit of the doubt by the group that we can appreciate. Okay. It's noticed. Okay. So Best Score won off camera during the commercial break. Now this is another problem that I also predicted for Sinners, and that only white people would win for the movie. And that is devastating. So here's a white producer giving a speech for Sinners. I mean, a couple of other producers were eventually able to speak. I can't believe this guy went first. This is like that Nate Bargatze sketch on SNL where these two chefs are competing, a white chef and a black chef, and they're competing for, Creole, like, quote unquote black food, and the white chef wins, and he's like, I don't want any, he's like, please stop celebrating me. It's a very funny sketch. And the optics on this were so bad. There was a female black producer, and I would have been like, you got to go first. You got to go first. And then you have a white composer winning for Sinners. And the other award that Sinners is very likely to win at the Oscars is casting. And Sinners, by the way, has a white casting director. Now, for those of you who are asking why this is an issue, I would like to say that I think that it's wonderful that Ryan Coogler works with diverse groups of people. Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson, who's his DP, you distracted me, who's his composer, have been friends since film school. And I think it's great that Ryan Coogler works with all different types of people. Sometimes people of all groups draw lines in the sand where they'll only work with people like themselves. And that's not good either. I mean, I think at a point it was good because it would give people opportunities. And I think there is a responsibility to help people like yourself, but not to only help people like yourself. I think it's important that we're all buddies and we all get along. I'm a big proponent of that. I want everybody to be able to have a good time. I want everyone to be happy. That's kind of how I like to live my life. I don't want anyone to be sad and feel left out. That's not nice. But although I don't like participation trophies, obviously everybody has to earn it. But I agree with Oace. It's kind of tone deaf to not understand the problem of a film that celebrates Black culture and Black history and the Black experience and Black pop culture and Black creativity, and only give awards to white people for it. I mean, that's like the white savior complex for awards. And that's real bad. So I hope that's not what happens to this going forward. I certainly would love for people who worked on the film who are white to be recognized, but for them only to be recognized is the issue. And that is my genuine concern for Sinners. Okay. Also, why does Ludwig Göransson always win? He also needs to take a break. I mean, he's very talented, but Hans Zimmer, who also wins a lot, but his F1 score is superior. I think that's very true. Okay. All right, then here PTA got the award he deserved, and that's for Best Director. Okay, so he won Best Director, and he thanked her. He'd spoken so much at this point that he thanked Mike DeLuca. But what about Pam Abdi, man? Although he's been working with, by the way, Mike DeLuca is a funny guy. Mike DeLuca, there's a funny story about Mike DeLuca. I'll tell it. So Mike DeLuca has been working in the industry for quite some time, and he's a crazy guy. In fact, there's a rumor that he was in an industry party once and he did something in a chair with another individual that made the woman who was holding the party say she was going to burn the chair after she saw it done. And every time I see Mike DeLuca, I think of that. I'm like, what'd he do in the chair, man? Maybe you should have offered to let him take it home. Be like, that's your chair now. But I thought that was very funny. Hey, X-Men superfan, it's always so nice to see you. But yeah, so he and Pam Abdy run Warner Brothers Film. And I thought it was nice, you know, especially after the studio talked about the lack of respect or acknowledgement that studio executives get, to shout out. I wish more people would shout out executives, because what Paul Thomas Anderson was saying was that, you know, Mike DeLuca had championed his career. And the whole reason he even has a career is because of Mike DeLuca. And so I thought that was great. And that's probably why he only talked about Mike DeLuca and not Pam Abdy, because he's been working with Mike DeLuca his entire career. And that was great. But I felt really bad that nobody ever really gave Jeff Robinov his flowers. In fact, Jeff Robinov quit Warner Brothers when he didn't get promoted and Kevin Tsujihara did instead, only for Kevin Tsujihara to be embroiled in scandal years later and have to be fired. But Jeff Robinov was also a very director-friendly person. And Jeff Robinov is the one who built up Warner Brothers into being the studio for directors. And so I'm very happy that Mike DeLuca is continuing that, but I wish that more people remember Jeff Robinov. But anyway, all right. So Zazie was there, and not only was Zazie there, but towards the end of the telecast, there was a shot of him talking with Ted Sarandos. So I was like, oh, you two separate. Of course, David Ellison sued them both this morning. Drama. Ryan Murphy, make a show about it. Okay. Then KPop Demon Hunters won Best Animated Film, and I was happy about that because I thought it was, again, as I tweeted, I love celebrating that women are actually quite quirky. We're full of personality, but yet so often society tries to strip women of all their personality, all right, and only make them objects or tools. But women are just so fun and so full of energy and so funny and have so many great ideas and are just, but can still be those other things. And that's why I like K-Pop Demon Hunters so much, that it doesn't, you know, sometimes society has said you have to pick, right? Hey, Brian, that you can either be very feminine or you can have a lot of personality. And I don't think it's like Rose Byrne is a human equivalent of being both things. And I love Rose Byrne for that. But I think for that reason, Rose Byrne has been hard to categorize. And one of the reasons she's kind of slipped through the cracks a little bit, right? Is she a leading lady? Is she a character actress? Nobody knows for sure. But I love seeing things start to go in the other direction. You know, I know you guys say, why can't you be both? And people are both. But Hollywood doesn't work that way. Hollywood is big on categorizing. Hollywood is big on, have we seen this ever before? Hollywood's very risk averse. And so it's a problem in Hollywood. And it's one of the reasons that Hollywood is being beaten out by places where you can be both. And so I'm very happy to see. Emma Stone is a great example of, I think, another person, but Emma Stone was very fortunate to be able to become a leading lady. Did I thank you, Brian? Thank you for those gifting those memberships. But yeah, I love seeing it in animation with K-Pop Demon Hunters. All right, then Brazil for the win. Best international feature with The Secret Agent. This got a lot of love last night, which was great. And then here, I was just frustrated at this point when Adolescence won Best Supporting Actress. And again, this was a catch-all category for limited series, comedy, and drama. And it was infuriating to me that Parker Posey didn't win. You know, I know Parker Posey didn't play as serious a role as this woman did on Adolescence, but it's really hard to do what Parker Posey did. You know, like Parker Posey, like just captured everybody's imagination. People were imitating her manner of speak. It reminds me of Ariana Grande and Wicked. Comedy is really, really hard. And, you know, there's so much category fraud, not here, but there's so much category fraud in comedy. Comedy is difficult to do. So I'm frustrated that Parker Posey has not gotten enough recognition for what she did on White Lotus. And then Rhea Seehorn won for Pluribus. Poor Britt Lauer. At least she's got her Emmy before Pluribus began to air. Bye, Nathan. But Also, there's a problem with Britt Lauer's husband, apparently, that is not going away on social media. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the story's true, but it's turning into a real problem for Britt Lauer. But I really like Britt Lauer. I think she's wonderful on Severance, but unfortunately only one person can win. And I think recency bias really helps Rhea Seehorn. Also, what helps Rhea Seehorn is that she wasn't even nominated for the whole run of Better Call Saul, even though she was the female lead on that show, which was shocking. So Danny didn't like Pluribus, but she did a great job. Yeah, she did. She did. I mean, if you watch, there's this one moment where her character contemplates self-harm. And I think about that a lot, actually, after having seen it, because it just was so emotional and so poignant and so subtly done. She does a great job. And I think she deserves this, although maybe someday we'll see if Bob Odenkirk can finally get some recognition. He was nominated but never won. And then I was shocked, as was everyone else, that Vince Gilligan was not seated at the same table. And that Vince Gilligan was stuck in the back of the room, and she had not even gotten a chance to see him that evening because they were sat so far apart. And I'm like, Vince frickin' Gilligan, one of the greatest creatives in the history of television, and he's in the back of the room. Hollywood is a difficult business. But yeah, oh, by the way, I agree with who said that? I saw somebody say that. I see it here. NC Universe. Aren't they all just so fabulously dressed? All three of these women look incredible, head to toe. Although I have to say that Dakota Fanning's dress particularly captured my imagination because it was just so incredibly sparkly. Like, as soon as she walked out on camera, I was like, oh, me like it. Me like it a lot. All right, so then we're going to go to the last group of photos, and then we'll do the Q&A. I'm sorry I'm running a little long here. There's so much to discuss. I feel like I'm the Golden Globes myself. Thanks for sticking with me. All right, so this was Best Drama, The Pitt. Look, I think it deserves to win Best Drama, but maybe the Golden Globes should be 2 nights. One for movies and one for TV. I would appreciate that, to be honest with you. I would tune in. I think it would make for a better experience. Bit anyway. I thought that the Pitt, I think the Pitt's the best of the group, but this category was nuts. Oh my God, White Lotus, Pluribus, Severance, Slow Horses, and The Diplomat, although The Diplomat is the weakest of the group. You're like, okay, we can take The Diplomat out, but who else should win? I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, it just shows the quality of streaming. It's just, streaming is in such a good place right now because they're basically making 8-hour movies, and it's an incredible time for storytelling. Then Adolescence won Best Limited Series yet again, and I felt bad because, again, I'm into All Her Fault. So I'm like, oh, All Her Fault should have won. But yeah, I liked this speech, and this here the co-creator clarified that Adolescence isn't about blaming young men, but about sounding the alarm that young men need to be protected from the people who prey on them on social media. Do you know who's talking to your son? It's Andrew Tate. Holy crap, get that phone. And so I think Adolescence is really great, one for that reason. And, you know, that's why I think that this was a good speech. Then the studio won Best Comedy. Look, the only thing that could unseat Hacks was another show about Hollywood. And so that's why the studio won. I love the studio. I think it's brilliant in every single regard. And I can't tell you how excited I am for season 2. Seth Rogen was at the Venice Film Festival taking photos with like an antique camera to get people excited about, you know, because he wants to do, obviously season 2 will take place at maybe the Venice Film Festival or a festival like that. That's going to be amazing. And of course, I'm so glad they're going to go to Venice. That would be so cool. And also they talked about the fact, you know, again, Mark Malkin, to be fair, it's a lot in Mark Malkin's delivery. I guess, you know, I don't like when people are mean to me, so I don't want to be mean to Mark Malkin. And he did have some, I'd be like, Mark Malkin, you just got to work on this a little bit, man. But I did like when he said, everybody's going to want to be on this studio season 2. And I think that's true. I think that's true. And I'm excited to see who they can get to come on because they already got amazing people like Martin Scorsese and Ron Howard and Charlize Theron and all kinds of cool people. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. All right, then Jessie Buckley won. This is interesting to me. She's going to win the Oscar. It's done. Okay. And I like Jessie Buckley. I think she's a very highly regarded actress, and she's very talented. However, I don't think she's ever going to be commercially successful. I just don't see it. And this happens to some actors. They just can't break through. Now, she has her best shot. That's the upcoming The Bride. I think The Bride looks really good. Maggie Gyllenhaal's ridiculously expensive movie. Now, I have some concern that she's holding back The Bride. I'm like, ooh, Christian Bale in a Rocky Horror goth, a Harley and Joker take on Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein. I'm like, that's a great idea. And then while I think she's doing a great job in the trailer, I'm a little nervous about whether or not she can get anybody to go see the movie. That makes me really nervous. So I think that, like a couple of other actresses out there, she'll always be highly regarded and she'll always work. But I don't know if she's ever going to break through to be somebody who can be a star. And that's just the industry for you. But I'm glad that she has some the awards that she deserves. She is the lead of The Bride. She is the lead. She is. All right, then Wagner Moura won Best Actor. This is a big deal. He broke through. Sometimes international actors will break through in other categories, and Wagner Moura is a real threat. It's really between him and Timothee for Best Actor. I still think Timothee is going to win it, but I would not at all be surprised if Wagner Moura was an upset win, a surprise win. Although it does not bode well for him that he was not nominated for the SAG Awards. The SAG Awards are the actors, and again, they are the biggest voting block in the Academy. And Timothee won the SAG Award for A Complete Unknown. The Actors Guild loves the guy. So the fact that he's not even nominated, I think, means that Timothee's going to win. But this is great for Wagner Moura's career. He's had a really hard time after playing Pablo Escobar, where he gained a lot of weight for that role, and so he looks very different now. But everybody just wants to see Pablo Escobar. As many of you pointed out, he voiced the villain in Puss in Boots 2 and did an incredible job. He's a very talented actor, and I hope this helps him. He was in Civil War. I mean, he's been getting work slowly but surely. Hey, Riley, I'm glad you were able to join in. I love you too. But I think this is going to help his career. So that's great. That's really fantastic. I like him a lot. I think he's a wonderful actor. All right, then the two big awards of the night for two best movie awards. So for comedy or musical, one battle after another one. This is kind of category fraud. I mean, it is a movie that makes you chuckle. It does have like some silliness in it. It is a little Coen Brothers-y. But I wouldn't categorize it as a comedy or a musical. So it's kind of silly that it's in this category. But it is, and it won. And it's going to win Best Picture. I think it's the best movie of the year. It's going to win. 100%. Maybe nothing's ever certain, so 99.9%, but it's going to win. So yeah, and I was very happy for it. I think it's an incredible film. And then, so that left drama wide open. And I thought, I got to tell you, for a minute, I thought Sinners might take it. I was like, ooh, maybe it won't get Barbied and people will yell at me. They'll be like, see, Grace, it didn't get Barbied. And so for just a second, I was like, maybe it's Sinners. And it wasn't. So Sinners is getting Barbied because it should have been Sinners. It should have been Sinners. But to be fair, Chloe Zhao's not my cup of tea. You know that other movie she made about Frances McDormand pooping in a bucket, which is how I'll always think of that movie? Did not care for that film either. But that won a ton of Oscars. And I think you can't argue with Chloe Zhao's results. Nomadland, thank you. I think Pooping in a Bucket is a better title. But anyway, because I think that really captures what you're getting. But anyway, Chloe Zhao, you can't deny at this point, even if you don't like her work, that she gets results. I thought Eternals was not great. I know a lot of you liked Eternals. I thought elements of Eternals were good, but I wouldn't make Eternals 2. I'm sorry to say. I would salvage some of those characters maybe, but I wouldn't make another Eternals. I think it spreads the MCU too thin. I'm like, we don't have time for this. You got other stuff that you got still bubbling on the stove. We have a Nomadland fan here. Rayan, also, you didn't like Barbie. We're on opposite sides of the spectrum here, Srayan. But so Chloe Zhao, Nobody was more shocked that they won than Chloe Zhao. Although Steven Spielberg is her producer, so I think he flexed his muscles a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised. But I do agree. Who said that? Tillman. Chloe Zhao did give a great speech. And it even made me like her a little bit more. I was like, maybe she's okay. I thought she was very sweet. I thought that it was nice that she gave a shout out to her fellow Marvel director, Ryan Coogler. And it also made me think that, it's so funny that Kevin Feige has gotten these directors and in some cases hasn't known what to do with them. Perhaps his insisting on having his B unit direct all the action sequences is not the best idea. Let these actors, I don't think that happens with Ryan Coogler, by the way. Let these actors cut their teeth on a smaller project and learn to direct action sequences themselves. Bryan Singer, Christopher Nolan, these directors started small and then really got the hang of it. They learn fast because they're good. They know what they're doing. I like when Judd Apatow was joking, though, that he didn't know what the different lenses did. And it reminded me of how difficult it is to be a director. And it really is an art form. And there's a lot of things to it that I think that the common, you wouldn't think about it when you first think about it. And so anyway, Chloe Zhao, I thought her speech was really nice. And I thought I liked seeing that solidarity and camaraderie between different people, like the next generation of people. You see a lot of actors always hanging out together, but it was nice to see directors have that camaraderie. I thought that was really nice. I like a world where Chloe Zhao and Ryan Coogler are pals. Oh, friends in film school. Isn't that nice? What film school? You should apply to that film school. I love that she's rebooting Buffy. I hope she does a better job with it than with Eternals. I hope she redeems herself. All right, Q&A. All right, let's do like 8 minutes for a full hour and a half stream. I'm going to put chapter times once this is published. Okay. Oh, I can just look at it when we get to a minute 30. All right, what's going on? Now, Ramanzilla and I agree. Don't care for Eternals, but massive respect for Chloe Zhao. Oh, all right. The Enrico Benito says, hey, Grace, conservative viewer from Spain here. Welcome. I'm glad you want to be here. Do you think that the Narnia movie that Netflix is doing will maintain its Christian themes? Big hug. I think it will. I don't know if those themes are going to go the way you think they will. Because, Greta Gerwig has spoken to that aspect of the books and that she has been very aware of them since she read them as a child. However, I think it's going to be closer to a little bit how Rian Johnson explored religion in Wake Up Dead Man, which I thought was really good. I don't know if everyone's going to love this kind of journey, but I think if you're open to like a open discussion of religion and stuff, but I think those themes will definitely be there. I think it would be bad if they weren't because, there's some debate as to whether or not Tolkien does. I think there's somebody where they're like, are those in there? But I think they are in the Narnia books. Sarah says, your favorite international movie this year? I would agree with The Secret Agent. I think that's a great film. Let's see here. Britt says, do you think that Michael, I'm assuming you mean Michael B. Jordan, is going to get snubbed like Margot at the Oscars? I think he's going to get nominated, but I don't think he's going to win. And I think that's okay. I think the nomination is important. I think he's got a lot of career ahead of him. And I think, once you get into the club of being nominated, it's much easier to get back in another year. So I think he's laying important groundwork for going forward. Michael B. Jordan is a really wonderful talent. And he's very artistic. He's gotten into directing. His day will come. X-Men Superfan says, would you like to see, I'm not sure who these actors are that you're mentioning. Who's Chitane? You mean Cheetah? Let's see here. Tatson, I'm glad you tuned in anyway, even though you're not a Golden Globes fan. Steven says, do you think Sinners could still win Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars? I do, because that's a good point. They're split. I'm sorry. Here, there's only one award at the Golden Globes for screenplay, but Oscars has adapted an original, and that puts Sinners in one battle after another in two different categories. So if Sinners doesn't win, it's going to be bad. Ryan says, why was there no in memoriam? The Golden Globes doesn't do an in memoriam. That's only the Oscars that does that. And I think SAG maybe does it as well. Oh, Andre says you didn't like that Judd Apatow bluffed people by saying he couldn't pronounce the name. Well, he could have also been talking about the director of Sentimental Value as well. I think I think he thought it was funny, but I don't think he realized how it would kind of like get people's hopes up and be kind of mean. But I think he was just trying to do a fake out. I think it was well intentioned, but it was not a good idea. Muma says, "Hey Grace, you might have said this earlier, but what do you think was the biggest snub of the night?" Ooh, I didn't say it earlier. I think Sinners was the biggest snub. I think it should have gotten that screenplay win. But I also think White Lotus should have gotten something. I think that's a really big snub. Oh, you did mean Cheetah. I'm not familiar with the actors that you mentioned, I'm afraid. All right, let's see here. Oh, Tolkien was very Catholic. Okay, I even saw a movie about Tolkien. It was not very good. Let's see here. It was Nicholas Hoult. NC Universe says, what a role do you think that Ariana could win an Oscar for? I think probably when she's a little older. Maybe she ever does an Audrey Hepburn bio, which I think she'd do a wonderful job in. Maybe that. I think she's so Audrey Hepburn coded in a wonderful way. I always tell you that actors follow in the footsteps of previous generations. George Clooney is doing Cary Grant, for sure. And I think that Ariana Grande is doing Audrey Hepburn quite well as George Clooney does Cary Grant, by the way. I mean, it's always great if you can be something new. Although Cary Grant was like one of the first actors. He was in like the early films with Mae West. So, there's not too many, there's always, as the famous saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun. But yeah, some people are new, like Jim Carrey's new, like that's new. But, sometimes it's very clever to follow in the footsteps of somebody else, not to do them, not to imitate them, but to take your cues from them. Thanks, Tammy. I'm glad you're enjoying my coverage. That makes me feel really nice. X-Men says, you mean Cheetah from DC Comics. Oh, Priscilla Reich is the OG version and Barbara is the British version. Wonder Woman villains. Oh, so which would I prefer? Oh, you mean I thought you were talking about actors. I think I'm not that familiar with old Wonder Woman comics, to be honest with you. I like the way I think Cheetah's been handled quite well recently. And no Princess, I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. That makes me very happy. Lloyd says, hello, Grace, returning member. I've only just joined the stream, so forgive if I've already mentioned, but I'm very disappointed that Joel Edgerton is not in the running for prizes. He was, though. I think Train Dreams was nominated in several categories. I think Train Dreams is actually surprisingly doing well this year. I don't think it has a chance of winning anything, but it has gotten some recognition. Oh, that's funny, Tatson. That's right. There was a film with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn called Charade. Did you like Charade? I'm not a huge fan of Charade. It's funny. A funny story about Charade is that Cary Grant felt he was too old for Audrey Hepburn. And in fact, that was one of the things that made him decide to retire because he didn't like the leading ladies he was getting matched with, which I think is very interesting. Rodney says, how do you feel about K-pop Demon Hunter sweeping and their Oscar performance coming? Oh, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about K-pop Demon Hunters. That's the kind of representation for women I want to see. Similarities. I'm glad it's not getting Barbied, maybe because in the animation space, people are a little better with it. But I'm really happy to see it getting noticed. Brandon says, Teyana Taylor for Vixen. As I said the other day, I think Teyana Taylor deserves, maybe she could elevate the role of Vixen, but I don't think Vixen's a big enough character for Teyana Taylor. I think Teyana Taylor deserves somebody who's a little more A-list or a new character. Let's see here. Saber says, hey, Grace, love your work always. Do you think Odessa will get the Oscar nom over Ariana? I'm drawing a blank on who Odessa Azion. No. Ariana's getting nominated, but she's not going to win. Oh, a lot of Charade fans here. X-Men Superfan says, is there a good musical this year? Song Sung Blue, maybe. I don't know. I thought it was an extremely depressing movie. I actually turned off Song Blue. It was just so depressing. Okay. Only T says, if I had a nickel, I'll explain why I thought Song Sung Blue was depressing. Song Sung Blue has Hugh Jackman's characters is in an AA meeting. And another person is sharing their pain and problems. But sometimes I think this is maybe a negative to group therapy, where someone's negative energy can affect you. And especially from people who are vulnerable, who are in therapy, group therapy to begin with. This woman says, you know, people don't realize how hard it is to do anything and that most things don't work out. And so why even bother trying? And that was such a scary negative thing to me that it even affected me when I heard it. And I was like, get that negative energy out of here. I don't want that in my space. And I felt bad, even though it was a fictional story, a fictional scene, I felt bad for everybody in that room. I was like, don't put that in these people's minds. You know, they're very vulnerable. And you know, they might not be able to get over hearing something like that. And so that to me, I mean, I'm glad, I understand where the movie was coming from, but I was just really rough. Oh, you meant 2026 this year. I thought you meant 2025 from the past year. Well, obviously Wicked, right? Let's see here. Danielle says, but To Catch a Thief was okay. I know where you're coming from, Danielle. To Catch a Thief has a very unfortunate third act situation with blackface, which is just a real problem for the film, and the film will never totally get over that element because it's just really unfortunate that they did that. I do think the rest of the film is quite good, but you know, I am actually in favor of that thing that used to run, and you know, they stopped doing it when Trump won the election again, but they used to have in front of this content that this was made at a different time when these things were unfortunately you know, not looked down upon or were approved, but it's hurtful and wrong, and let's use this opportunity to discuss why. And I'm in favor of those things continuing to run, and I definitely would put that in front of To Catch a Thief. Hey, Sue says, do you have an Oscars outfit planned? I am saving a shirt. I don't know if it'll be for when the nominations come out or for the show itself, but I do have at least one shirt that I've been saving. What did I think of Nikki's dig at CBS News? Totally warranted. Oh, I gotta go. Let me just answer these. I really talked for a long time. Okay, I had a good time with you guys talking about this. Night of the Seven Kingdoms embargo lifts tomorrow at 5 p.m. Oh, you know, Teyana Taylor from Mystique is a very good idea. She'd be great in that role, and she would really embrace, although I don't think they're going in that direction, but she's an interesting choice as well. Although I still like that woman, that French-Iranian actress from Extraction. Let's see here. You're disappointed that the honorary awards were shunted to separate YouTube clips? I didn't even see that. And then, do I think Lisa Kudrow will win awards for The Comeback Season 3? I don't watch that show, so it's hard for me to say, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And then X-Men Superfan says, I want Wonder Woman to fight with her fists and lasso. No, I like when she uses a sword and shield. I agreed in the sword and shield. I think that was a mistake to get rid of that. All right, everybody. I had a wonderful time talking to you as always. And there should be, maybe, it's supposed to be, they've been releasing them every Tuesday. There's supposed to maybe be another Avengers trailer tomorrow. And if there is, we will, I'll be doing a reaction, and we'll be doing a live stream to discuss it. So see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.